Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio, it's time for the GNFCC 400 Insider. Connect, build, and grow with the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce.
Hello and welcome to the GNFCC 400 Insider, the monthly radio show and podcast presented by the Greater North Fulton Chamber. I'm Callie Boatwright, President and CEO of the Greater North Fulton Chamber, and today we will be discussing the new Milton Business Council. My two guests today are John Herbert. John is the 2020 chairman of the Milton Business Council. He is also the principal of his own Herbert Legal Group. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Callie. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Sarah LaDart is also with us. Sarah is a member of the Milton Business Council Board of Directors, but perhaps better known as the Economic Development Director at the City of Milton. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Callie. Thanks for having me.
Very glad to have both of you with us today. And I thought we would start with just a basic introduction. I know that both of you are probably have been on the show and are familiar with it, but if we can start by you just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background and what led you to where you are now, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the Milton Business Council piece. John, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. I've been practicing law since 1994. Always been in my own practice and have a diverse range of practice on the civil side of the law. Starting in 2013, we launched the latest iteration, which is Herbert Legal Group, providing flat fee business services for businesses here in North Fulton.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Sarah?
I started in North Fulton 13 years ago at the North Fulton Chamber. They gave me my first real job out of college.
Awesome.
So I was there for 5 years doing economic development. Took a couple years off to have some babies and got a call from the City of Milton to come and do their economic development. So I've been there about 5 years now.
Wonderful. Well, we're glad to have both of you involved at the Chamber and now with the Milton Business Council. So perhaps we should just take a minute to talk about how the Milton Business Alliance, which was a volunteer group, became the Milton Business Council just in January, and maybe some of the steps along the 6 months that we've been preceding this changeover. I know Sarah and John, we have worked closely together to make this happen. And so maybe telling us just a little bit about the Milton Business Alliance, John, and how it came to be and where we are now.
Sure. The Milton Business Alliance was formed about 10 years ago by business leaders as well as important community leaders here in the city of Milton. It was an organization for both business membership and individual membership, and the goal was to build the business community and have a place for people to come and learn about each other's business and a way to support each other. It, like you say, it was a volunteer organization for 10 years. It did a great job of bringing together some of the top business leaders and community leaders in the city. More recently, during this last year, when I was also serving on the board of the Milton Business Alliance, we realized that we could be more. And we approached the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce about the possibility of cooperating and putting our two great programs together. Thankfully, you and the board of directors at the chamber were very receptive to that idea. And we worked through about 6 months about what this new initiative would look like under the name of the Milton Business Council. And it was a great example of collaboration and what can happen when people with the same interest can come together and get on the same page. It was a very rewarding process. And I think the greatest thing about the process of getting us to where we are here today with the Milton Business Council is it came about because of all the cooperation from so many people, including the city of Milton, the chamber, and then the key members of the Milton Business Alliance. We're really excited that we can celebrate that history and look forward to a future with a home in the chamber.
You know, it's interesting. The Milton Business Alliance was one of the first organizations that I attended my first week at the chamber in April of 2018. And so I've always had a heart for it. So it's kind of interesting that it has morphed now into the relationship that it is. But what's always impressed me the most, perhaps, is the fact that this was a completely volunteer-led group. So you had volunteers who had their day jobs and that's what they focused on and got paid for, which is great. But then they took the time to really work in Milton to make that business community the best it could be. So I feel like, of the volunteer-led group has now come to the point where, I owe it to them to make sure that the chamber does right by that organization, even with it changing into the Milton Business Council. And I know you were one of the volunteers that did that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So, Sarah, I know that the city of Milton has been really instrumental in being engaged in the process since the very beginning. In fact, we actually launched the announcement at the Milton State of the City. So maybe talk a little bit about the city's perspective and what they hope to achieve through the new Milton Business Council.
So one thing that the city's been working on the past year and a half is an economic development and marketing study for our Deerfield corridor. We hired RKG out of Alexandria to come in and look at what we have LCI studies that show what Milton could be, but for some reason, what they were showing and what was happening didn't align. So we hired them to come and take a look at it, and we recently received the draft of their recommendations, and one of the things they talk about is pretty basically the Milton Business Council. Having that group of, we've talked about having ambassadors, having those advocates, putting a group of business leaders together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important. Milton has 900-ish businesses. About half of those are small business. So I think we spend a lot of time focusing on our, 1 to 10 employee base, but we actually have a nice handful of 50-ish people companies. We also have the headquarters for Verizon. We have XI Technologies, who just signed a huge contract with the Army the company's headquartered in Milton, and their batteries were on the moon.
Oh, wow.
That's really
That's
cool.
happening. Yes. Yeah. It's very cool. But we need to tell people about it, right?
They've been on every submarine that the Army has ever had. And they're headquartered here in Milton.
That's great.
So we need to make sure that while we pay attention to those big guys too, because they certainly play their role and they can be helpful. So in creating this council, I think John has done a good job of finding those really small businesses, those 10 people businesses, and also those 50 to 80 people businesses. And with that, I've spoken with Phillips Healthcare about getting involved after we get the RKG report in and being part of the advocacy group. We have staff members at the city who want to be ambassadors and advocates. They're so excited. So it's really about kind of taking that next step forward. I'd like to say, Milton, we're 13 years old now. We're a teenager. We need to figure out who we are and where we're going in life. So having this group and being able to be a part of the start of it and be on the board, I think is very important for the future of Milton and everything we have coming.
And John, I know you've had lots of people reach out to you. It seems like people are excited, right?
Absolutely. People come up to me all the time and they're wanting to be involved. They're like, well, I live in Milton or my business is in Milton. All of a sudden, the Milton people are coming out of the woodwork under the spotlight, which was the goal from the very beginning. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think it's really neat that people are embracing it and are really excited about it and wanting to champion it. So that's exciting. And Sarah, of course, we're very excited that the city saw the chamber and this opportunity with the Milton Business Council as the conduit to make those things happen. I know it's hard if you've got 900 businesses, which is a great number, but it'd be hard to operate a separate organization, right? A chamber with that size. And so this makes sense because you have the workforce, if you will, of the Greater North Fulton Chamber, but you have your own initial logo and your own organization and really branded and run by the folks in who live and work in Milton. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
And I think that was a big thing was that the Milton Business Alliance, for the number of businesses in Milton, had a very large percentage of participation.
Right.
And then of those 100-ish members, you would have a large percentage of those 100 members at an event, but you're still at 20 to 25 people.
Right.
So it's kind of getting the mass out there, getting the word out, being able to use your email list.
Yeah. But to be fair, it's a great point because we've got folks who focus on emails and communications and social media. And again, that is their day job, right? So they get paid to do that. And so the nice thing about that is their focus and their core competency where, if you've got John, I'll pick on you. If you've got an attorney, that may not be it may be not be your core competency. And so you're not going to be the one, putting that out necessarily, or it won't be your first thing to do, right? And so I think that having that will really take this to the next level. So we're super excited about it too. Sarah, I'm going to stick with you for a minute because you actually had already started to design a number of initiatives for Milton businesses. It's not like you were waiting around, right? So you were already recognizing, either based on the RKG study or just, intuitively knew that there was a need. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about some of those?
So when I started in Milton in 2014, one of the first things I did was I sent out a survey. For that one, we got maybe about 70 people responded, which I was very pleased with. And one of the things they said was, what do you think of City Hall? And that's where we go to pay taxes. And we want you to know that we're more than just who you pay your taxes to.
Yeah.
So we tried to think of ways to engage them, to get them to come to City Hall for something else. So the first thing we started was our small business symposium. And that's every year in June. We're on our 4th one this year. And it's a half day. We bring in a speaker at lunch, and then we have a series of educational topics that you can choose from. And those are guided by really questions that I've received from the business community over the past year. And then we finish that with a small business expo in our council chambers. $30, come showcase your business, have people come. I think MBA actually used it as their after hours last year. And so that was the first one. So we started that, whatever 4 years ago it was. And then the year after that, chatting with John, we started our launch program. So every business that is 2 years or less, twice a year, we again invite them to City Hall for coffee. It's from 7:30 to 8:30. The next one is coming up next week on March 12th. So if you are one of our new businesses, you should have received an email about that. But it's come to City Hall, have a cup of coffee. I talk for a minute, introduce myself. John, CCA, would introduce Crabapple Community Association.
Thank you.
They would introduce themselves. But really, it was just a nice way for those new businesses to start networking.
Yeah.
And we had some really good successes out from that right from the back. And the financial, she does my taxes.
This person.
But she told us that she was nervous about coming to the first one because she's like, I've never been to anything like this before. Then she gets to this group of 15 to 20 people, and it's everybody's first time at something like this. And it's very casual. And again, just getting them into City Hall.
Welcoming.
So we've done that this is our 3rd year of that.
3rd year.
And Sarah, the other great thing about that is, that most businesses, of course, need the most support in the first 2 years. Most businesses fail during that time period. So the fact that you thought to do that is great. They need that support, not just of you, but of everybody in that room. So
when it's people, again, you think all we do is take your taxes, but we're also very helpful. We can be that connection between you and whether it's a utility or we had a guy who couldn't get internet. And for 6 months, he was paying some astronomical fee because the internet and right-of-way, all of this. And he calls me one morning and he was like, Sarah, you got to help me. And I was like, dude, why didn't you call me 6 months ago?
Right, yes.
And I'm able to shoot those emails to the people and get him his internet in a week.
Right.
People don't think to call the city, and I can't solve all the problems, but I know who to send it to, whether it's to you or to John or whomever, to connect those dots and make it easier. And we want people to know that that's what the city, that's what my job, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And the last one we started last year is our corridor conversations, getting out and being proactively available to our businesses and their employees. So we meet monthly. We rotate between the 3 business corridors in Milton, which are Crabapple, Deerfield, and Birmingham Crossroads. And we meet at city facilities, so City Hall, the fire station, and to be open this fall, our public safety facility. But it's just a casual way to sit down at a table and tell me what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Because if we don't know and you're out there and you're frustrated with something and something's not working and you don't let the city know, we don't know.
Right. And so the great thing is, though, you have an opportunity for them to come to you and then you're taking it out to each of those corridors. So you're pushing and pulling, which is excellent to get that information. Yep. That's great. Well, and I know that we're going to be part of all of those conversations moving forward. So we're excited to be part of helping with that. So speaking of moving forward, John, as the new chair of the Milton Business Council, I know you've got a leadership team that started working. And so have you given any thought to what your program of events might look like over the next year?
Absolutely.
I thought
First
you might have.
We have the best leadership team you can imagine. We have some really top business leaders and business minds in the city of Milton, living in the city of Milton. So we're very, very excited about those guys and ladies. As far as programming goes, we are planning 4 quarterly events this year. our first quarterly event, I call the first quarter-ish event because it happens on April the 2nd.
Well, that's almost.
Well, we missed the quarter by a couple of days.
It's leap year's fault.
That's right.
We missed it by a couple of days, but we'll get it in. It'll be April the 2nd at City Hall, and we'll do an after-hours event there. We'll be able to have a big kickoff and be sure to, all the support the city's given us. It'll be a great time to showcase our new program. So more information will be available on that. By the way, all of our information will be available at miltonbusinesscouncil.com.
Great. That's
Also, you can also get there through GNFCC.com.
Yep, and just go into the city of Milton and the button's right there, which is great. So that April 2nd event sounds like it's going to be focused on a lot of networking. I assume we'll have, some wine and some beer and some snacks, and folks can get to know one another.
There will be some adult beverages there. It will be primarily an open networking type meeting, very little talking. We'll do a little bit of introduction of what the rest of the year is going to look like and some of the ideas we have going forward for the Milton Business Council and soliciting ideas for the Milton Business Council. We are starting from scratch, which is exciting.
Awesome. It is.
It's very
really
exciting. Second, third, we'll plan our other quarterly events. I definitely want one to be at the new public safety complex in Milton.
I have seen pictures. It's going to be amazing, right?
Wow.
Yeah, we had our topping off ceremony, which I thought meant topsoil.
It
actually means putting the roof on the building.
Yeah,
I didn't
sure
know
does.
that. So that was fun. Yeah, that was
so it's
yesterday.
further along. That's
Yep.
awesome. In the rain, which now is pretty much every day. So,
But nothing's more fun than police cars and fire trucks and
so you're doing a touch-a-track for adults
and courtrooms.
That's excellent. Oh, yes, as the attorney says,
courtrooms.
courtrooms. Well, I'm super excited about that. So different opportunities, obviously, evening, morning, I'm assuming maybe one might be a breakfast. You're going to kind of try to feel your way to what the best time is for this group too?
Absolutely. We're looking at a mix this year just to see how things going. We're also, Milton Business Alliance had an annual tradition with the Alpharetta Business Association where we take turns hosting each other every year in a joint event.
Awesome.
This year, we'll continue that tradition under the new Milton Business Council, and we're very excited about that. It's one of my favorite meetings, being a member of both.
That's perfect.
It's great to have
and we are as well.
The two families come together, and that one will be in June. So go to the Alpharetta Business Association website for that. And if you're interested in being on the Milton Business Council special mailing list for special highlights and information, and you're a member of the chamber, just let us know. We'll make sure people are on that list, and that information will be there as well.
Great. And of course, that you can do that at gnfcc.com at any time. All right. So I'm going to ask both of you this question because I think it's really important and put you on the spot. So there's nothing like that, right? What do you think will probably be the most important thing for the success of the Milton Business Council in this first 6 months? Oh, I really did catch you off guard.
No, it's easy. It's always the engagement of our members.
Yep.
Right? The organization will be as great as the engagement of our members. So that's really the responsibility of the leadership team to promote and enhance and give people the opportunity to engage, and we plan to do that. If people aren't engaging, then something's wrong with our programming. So we're looking for a high level of engagement. And I should mention that Sarah is also on the leadership team. You know what?
Are there several of the leadership team you can share, or are we keeping that a secret? Because I also don't want to, reveal anything that shouldn't be. But I know that the leadership team has already met and is starting to work on that piece. So I think that's really important, and I certainly appreciate their volunteer.
Absolutely. Besides Sarah LaDart, Brian Beckham, he's with Brain Jocks here in Milton. Jamie Bindle, he's with Punchline, and he's an attorney as well. Has a very nice practice. Jack Barabee, he's with a company called Merged RE. They're doing some really interesting things in real estate services. And, of course, Linda Coyle with LGE.
Yep, Linda's a big supporter of the chamber already and lives in Milton, so that's great. Absolutely.
Ben Heward with Go Agency. They did such a great job with the chamber website.
They did. We're
really proud to have Ben. Ben is by far my most enthusiastic team member.
He's very excited.
Absolutely. Peyton Jameson with Jameson Private Wealth Management is also on there. Daniel Lager with State Farm out at Birmingham Crossroads.
Awesome.
And Andrea Staley at Club Corps.
Awesome. So
manner.
You've got kind of a wide variety of folks. That sounds great. And good different sizes of businesses,
different
Sarah.
size companies. And look, their offices are geographically all over Milton. That was on purpose.
We tried to cover the corridors as well when we were looking for those folks.
I love that y'all kind of recruited a deep dream team that came from all the different areas of Milton and all the different types of businesses. So that's really, as you said, I mean, that's going to make all the difference, right? Engaging their relationships as well within those businesses. So that's really exciting. So engagement from both of you would be the number one answer, Sarah?
Well, I think right now there's a lot of buzz about it.
Sure.
When I'm walking around town, when I go downtown, people are like, "Oh, I heard about this," or "We saw it in the paper." So making sure that with these events that we do them right, so that buzz stays around.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get one chance to do it the first time right? So let's nail this, and agreed. No, I think, and you've put together a team who can do that for sure. And I know certainly the chamber team can, so I'm not worried about execution on our part either. So I think it really is a dream team, if you will. And John, you've got a lot of involvement. You guys are both so busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to be with me today. But what motivates you to get out and lead this new council? You already have so much that you do, and I know that you're managing all of the things, plus your paying gig, which is kind of important as you employ other people as well. Not to mention that you just won the Chamber's Volunteer of the Year award, so you got your hands in lots of different things and have always been incredibly active with all the different organizations. You mentioned ABA, I know Roswell Inc. as well. So what was the impetus to want to take this on?
I think that Milton is at an interesting place in its business community, as well as the great people who live here. But from the business community standpoint, it's at a point where it can really start to make a difference, not just for the city of Milton, but for North Fulton County and the region in general. There's so many possibilities here, and I believe that we're at about 20% of what we could be. So I think if there were
I was going to share my interesting statistic about Milton. So Milton, we're right around 39 square acres, or square miles. But then only 2% of our land is zoned for commercial development.
Out of the 39 miles, only 2% can 2%. Be. Okay.
Only 1% is currently developed.
So you can double.
We can actually double our development in Milton.
Awesome.
And with that, our budget, 85% is from residential, 15% commercial. So with that equation, we could theoretically double that. And I think that's what John's talking about, is that's what we're looking to do in the next several decades. And this is a great time to start this.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so you get to be at the front end of the whole thing, both of you, really, because Sarah, I mean, obviously you guys have been working together to make this happen. So I think that's awesome. So are you motivated, John? You ready to go?
Absolutely. We're so excited that out of all of the 6 cities that the Chamber serves, the spotlight is going to be on Milton at least 4 times a year, if not more often.
It feels like it's more often. We've already done a lot of that, but I think it's great.
Amazing, and it's so great. It's so great for our businesses, and it's great for the Chamber. We want to make sure that everybody's winning, and so far, everybody is truly winning from this collaboration.
That's awesome. That's really great. I've heard a lot of good feedback from the other cities too, so that's good. I think that's wonderful. So you mentioned if somebody were to want to hear this podcast and decide that they want to join the Milton Business Council, how does that work?
Well, they need to be a member of the Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce, which is the premier chamber in the state of Georgia, if not the Southeast.
I like the way you did that.
Absolutely.
That's perfect. Thank you.
And speaking of potential.
So GNFCC.com is where they would join the chamber. And then so they pay an additional fee or a separate fee for Milton Business Council?
There's no additional fee for the Milton Business Council. You just need to let us know to make sure to put you on that Milton Business Council interest list, and we'll make sure that you know what's going on and when it's going on.
That's great. So they could actually, if they were members of both organizations in the past, they had to pay both fees. So now it's just the one fee. So that's helpful, I think, for small businesses in effect, right? So that's a good thing. Wonderful. And so for both of you, last question, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share with people about Milton Business Council or about Milton? No pressure.
This was pretty thorough.
Pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Well, good. I've done a good job then. We'll count it as that. I would love to tell our listeners how they can find both of you. We've mentioned, of course, the Milton Business Council, but Sarah, if folks wanted to reach out to you, how would they find you? What website?
City of Milton, Georgia, .us. My email address, all of that is on there.
Wonderful. Okay, so great. And John, if they wanted to find you?
Sure. The website for Herbert Legal Group is just that, herbertlegalgroup.com. And my email address is john, John, at herbertlegalgroup.com.
That makes it super easy. Thank you both for being with us today. I certainly want to thank them. I also want to thank our listeners for joining us on the GNFCC 400 Insider, presented, of course, by the Greater North Fulton Chamber. To listen to this show again or to hear any of our previous episodes, visit GNFCC400insider.com. And to learn more about the Milton Business Council, visit miltonbusinesscouncil.com. Or to learn about the Greater North Fulton Chamber events and programs, you can always visit GNFCC.com. Until next time, I'm Callie Boatwright, and this has been the GNFCC 400 Insider on Business Radio X.